Stay informed and stay in the know. Learn and interact with compelling conversation. Grow your mind and transform your thinking. This is the Bev Smith Show on the Empowerment Radio Network.
Past June, Afghan villagers gathered together to look at a house that was destroyed, NATO reported, by NATO forces. What does that do to our ability to get peace? The man with the answers is here. He's Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Shaffer, and we're just delighted to have him here giving us so much information. All right, let's move right to the strategies, because it seems that the strategies are eclectic and political, Anthony.
Well, they are, and I'm glad you brought up the whole issue of the Afghan village and the houses. We are helping by our sloppy application of force creating the next generation of terrorists. I've talked to Pakistanis who hate the drone program because we created such fear and killed so many innocents. We're actually helping generate a force which destabilizes Pakistan. So many things we do, we have to look at. We need to look at as a chess game, not as a checker game. And speaking of strategies, we've got to look at how we establish a fundamental baseline for how we function as a military. And your point before the last break, Bev, about accountability regarding the Pentagon. Look, the Pentagon is fighting an audit. I mean, I cannot imagine any organization that needs an audit more, maybe the Fed, than the Pentagon to look at where the money's gone. So I think to understand what you invested in, you have to figure out what you spent it on. They're fighting that. Their excuse is, it's too complicated. Are you kidding me? And the next issue then is, how do we formulate the fundamental underpinnings of the 21st century defense structure? Right now, we're using something called the National Security Act of 1947. Again, that's from 1947. That's the basic set of laws which established our current defense establishment, and it was focused on to accomplish a victory in the Cold War, which last time I checked, we won the Cold War back in 1989. So we have not fundamentally done anything to actually adjust the momentum of this large culture changing its ways it functioned during the Cold War. And so this is why I think we see layer upon layer of capability which really is not useful within the current stratus of our planning. So what I'm proposing is we actually look at how we reshape everything to be focused on requirements of the 21st century, not on things that we developed right after World War II.
Well, one of the things that you said that I couldn't be in more agreement with is you have to look. You have to look at what you did. I mean, don't we do that when we file our income tax? We have to look at what all avenues. So tell me this and explain to me how this happens. You have men and women who go to war. And we could talk about we could talk about how these young people came out of all of the avenues and alleys and farms and streets of America, every ethnic group you could think of. And for the first time, the largest number of women came out believing the hype. And what did this country do? The military, we have to, as Americans, accept some of the responsibility. We sent these people over there, and then the money, Anthony, that was supposed to go for weapons so that we could fight the enemy, I don't know where the money went. The boys did not get what they needed. The women did not get what they needed. And I spoke to young men whose families had sent them night equipment and everything. Do you remember that debacle?
Right.
I
do.
And the soldiers were punished. Okay, so to me it would seem, if I was a journalist and allowed to ask questions of these people who want war, first thing I would say is, wait a minute, hold up. You say you care about the soldier. Then why don't you take the money and get him the right equipment? Why did you protect him like you should? Why did you not give them the right amount of tanks and weapons that they need? Why did you deny the intelligence? Why didn't you send diplomats in and look at all of the ways to conquer this calamity? Why and who is responsible? And why aren't those responsible people, Dick Cheney, punished?
Oh, I'm with you, and I think this is one of the things that a number of members of Congress I've worked for have called for: accountability, fundamental accountability. In Wall Street, as much as Wall Street's been messed up, people like Bernie Madoff eventually get caught and go to jail, and you don't see that within Enron. A few years ago, we had this company called Enron, which went belly up. A lot of corruption there, and to think somehow that our Department of Defense does not have equal corruption is insane, because if you look at statistics only, statistically you always will have a corrupt element. And the fact that we were not willing to look at it, and these larger acts of what I would consider on the mild side incompetence, on the evil side total disregard for human life, we don't seem to take seriously. And I don't understand it, because these are big decisions that need to be made, and it's not like the money's not there. You could have taken one fighter aircraft from the Air Force, just not funded it, and bought all the gear, all the body armor, all the night vision goggles, everything you need to supply our forces for 2 years or more. And this is where the inequity comes in. Those big dollars go to big contractors, and frankly, it's the veterans, it's the soldiers in the field who always suffer from these lack of ability to plan adequately. And the way you deal with that, again, is we've got to call Congress to do something about it. Congress appropriates the money. Congress can call for the audit. Congress can legislate all this stuff. And yet, because a friend of mine calls them the invertebrate branch, because they never seem to stand up for themselves. And this is one of those things where a lot of people love their local congressman, but they hate Congress. This is one of those things where everybody needs to energize their congressman, their congressperson, man or woman, to actually call for accountability in these areas. And it's not like, and I'm not saying we should cut defense across the board at our own peril. We have to shape the defense budget and our defense focus on what's best to protect the American people. That protecting the American people piece, Bev, people tend to forget about.
Well, maybe what we need is a new explanation for defense, because what concerns me is the defense of the United States internally. Now, when you said chess and checkers, I could hardly contain myself, because that's exactly what we've been doing. We created the monster that created the monster that created the monster that created the monster that had a young man travel all the way from Africa and want to have a bomb on his foot, or have another guy come in and go on the internet and talk about he wants to blow up the federal building. So we have to look internally. So look at the decisions that were made. We exhausted manpower in the military. We did not do the training that's needed. When I say the training, I come from people that are career in the military. When I say the training, if I'm going to send you into a country, and you belong, and let's say you're in the university and you belong to one of the programs, Trans-Africa used to send these young college students into Africa. Okay, the first thing you do is find out about the village that you're going to. Who are the people? Who are the chiefs? What is the language? Do they know English? Who are the leaders? Who are the people that are favorable to America? And who are the people that are questionable? You don't drop a bomb on a village. Hello, this is America. Right. Boom. Wouldn't you be upset? I mean, can you imagine if tomorrow morning China came over here and dropped a bomb on the folks down in L.A. partying over the Dancing with the Stars or something like that? These people were lying in bed. How do I know? Because I interviewed the father of a son that was brought to my hometown for Children's Hospital, who was lying next to his mother in Afghanistan. And at night, this woman was breastfeeding her child. She had another baby inside of her. The bomb dropped and tore the baby out of her stomach. It tore half this little boy's face off. And so he had been going through a series of plastic surgeries, and the only way he could get it done was here. The doctors volunteered from Pitt University and from the Children's Hospital here in Pittsburgh. What do I say as an American? I'm an African American. What do I say? Do I say I'm sorry? I didn't even know we planned to do that. But that's my taxpayers' dollars. What's my responsibility, Lieutenant Colonel?